Shall we start with the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, as far as announcements go, Mr. Fetcher is out of town and is excused tonight. Mr. Rowe is joining us via Zoom, so we have everybody but one with us. We met in exec session for 30 minutes prior to the night's meeting to discuss a couple personnel issues. And with that, if I didn't forget anything, we'll go to citizens' comments to the board on agenda items.
See here. We do not currently have any comments online. If anybody's watching and would like to make a comment to the school board, please visit our website at www.lasd.us. Scroll to the school board meeting announcement and click on the survey link. Fill in your name, your address, and the comment that you would like read to the board, and it will be read to the board later on. Back to you, Mr. B.
All righty. Next up is board representative comments. Paula, you want to go first tonight?
All right. First, I want to put a plug in this week. One of my favorite concerts. The orchestra will be doing the annual spectacular on Saturday evening at 7 o'clock. It's just a great tradition that Mr. Jones has started. Unfortunately, they're still not back to having the fifth graders perform with the high school orchestra, just because of keeping the separation and numbers, and also, just some of the things with transportation of getting them back and forth this year. But again, the kids really look forward to that. It's, if you've ever been to it, it's just, a very informal but very cool. Like, they do a lot with the special effects and things. So that's awesome. Our Little Brown Jug game versus Mifflinburg is tomorrow night and at Bucknell for football. It's going to be a rainy one, so bring your umbrella. We'll also be recognizing the seniors for football, cheer, and band tomorrow. And so it's hard to believe that's the last game of the regular season. November 1st, as you may know, especially those of you are with seniors, Virginia, November 1st deadline for colleges is coming up. And I just want to give a shout out to Mrs. Fennell and Mrs. O'Connor, as well as our teachers, because the amount of time that goes into writing letters of recommendations really is very time consuming, and they go out of their way to make sure that they are very personalized. Mrs. O'Connor yesterday, when I was getting ready to go home, I'm like, okay, you need to go. She's like, but I want her so badly to get in, and I'm trying to make it the best. Like they don't just do a standard letter for kids. They make it as personal and their individual accomplishments and strengths. So I just want to commend them for that. And finally, I had the opportunity to go over to cross country today, and our girls took the silver medal in districts, and our boys were the gold medalists. Jacob Hess pretty much blew out his competition. Again, this group of seniors has never lost a cross country match in their 4 years that they have competed. Anything they've competed in, they have competed first. So they're going headed to states. It will be not this Saturday, but the Saturday after, where hopefully they'll be defending or hoping to bring back the 3rd gold in a row for states, which no matter what they place, what an amazing accomplishment for this group of seniors. The girls also get to participate. Last year, they only took the 1st place team from districts because, again, with COVID and the limited number of runners, but they are back to taking both the 1st and 2nd place teams. So just want to wish them well.
It is an exciting time of the year, so there are a lot of playoff events coming up here for Lewisburg. Some of the things that have happened already this Monday, our golf team competed at states and they took 2nd place, so they took the silver medal. I believe that's the first time that they've medaled within its history. Last night, our girls soccer team defeated Warrior Run in the preliminary game. Tonight, field hockey is at 7 at Selinsgrove. and they're playing Midwest. So that's the first round playoff game. If they win tonight, then they'll play Line Mountain, but we don't know like time or location yet. And then this weekend is also soccer. So boys soccer is Saturday at 12 at Selinsgrove. They play Loyal Sock, and then the girls play directly following that at Selinsgrove as well, 2 o'clock versus Central Columbia. So it's pretty exciting with all of that that's happening, being able to go out and support them with all of our extracurricular activities. It's pretty exciting just to see their, the competitive nature of everything they built up to do is now, finally coming to like a culmination for them. And it's just exciting as, they're going off to games. They were able to practice. Field hockey was able to practice at Bucknell yesterday just in preparation for tonight. So it's pretty exciting to see.
And something just that our girls tennis had already competed also up in Williamsport, and the boys football team has a chance to still make it into playoffs. And I know we always talk about, how amazing the successes of our team, but I mean, we just mentioned all the fall sports there, and that's pretty phenomenal. I mean, the PHAC already has such a strong level of competition in the state, but like this, to have this many teams and districts as one, as from one school is pretty amazing.
Thank you. Today was middle school's fall festival, kind of an annual event that we have with, as a part of our RAPS program. The 6th grade team put that on, had outdoor games, and we have the event mostly every year, but it's almost always horrible weather. And today was just absolutely gorgeous. So the kids played some games outside. They had cider and played bingo inside. And seem to really enjoy themselves. It kind of gives the kids a lift right before the long weekend. To mention, to piggyback on the success of the high school, well, those kids had to learn how to play somewhere. And I'm going to take credit. I'll just give a little bit of a synopsis of how.
Sorry, it's really an ice pop.
So the middle school had a level of success that doesn't quite rival what Paula and Josh were just telling us about. The football team today had its final home game, defeating Danville 38-0. It's a big deal when they can do something like that, literally run over the other team, which is great. The softball team, I saw them this year in person win within the 15-run rule and lose by that same 15-run rule. They had ups and downs, but the key with them was they had so much interest that to give kids enough quality playing time, the coaches ran an A team, a B team, and a C team to make sure that they could all stay interested and stay a part of the program, which I thought was outstanding. And then our cross-country teams, the boys and the girls teams combined went 18-0, won 2 invitationals, and have just been amazing. And these kids will be going up to continue the traditions at the high school. So a big round of applause in my head for the fall sports at the middle school. Today, we were able to turn over to Geisinger a stack of about 350 Veterans Day cards that the kids made. I'll post some pictures. I took pictures of just a few of them. I'll post them on our website or on the middle school Facebook page. But the messages that the kids put in these cards to say thank you to veterans and current service members seemed really heartfelt. They put a lot of effort into the artwork on these cards, and I'm sure they're going to be greatly appreciated. And one other little tidbit, in a social studies class in 6th grade, Mr. West was contacted by a former student of his who now lives in South Korea and wanted to Zoom with the classes and managed to do that. The kids were able to prepare questions in advance. Not every kid was able to participate. It was a limited window. But Mr. West's former student is 8 months pregnant. She is living in Korea and is a converted Muslim. There was an awful lot of cultural distinctions to be made, and the kids were able to ask questions, get them answered, and get them, it was like a real experience for them. And I don't think we utilize the technology in that way enough to give kids some of those more authentic experiences. But hats off to Mr. West and his former student for being able to do that for us. Mr. Wetzel?
Sure, thank you. And I think as, you know, as they see success in middle school, that also has to be set up somewhere. But I do want to give a shout out to the junior high coaches. They did offer the opportunity for some of the girls in Little League that played softball to come and have like just open field workouts to work on skills. And I think that's such a huge piece when you're looking at building a program and really getting that from the ground up. Was just an awesome thing. We had several students walking over after school. They did about 2 weeks of it. So just an awesome thing that really will pay dividends in years to come. A couple things from Lintown. We had, I know I mentioned a couple of meetings ago about Erin Riddle getting the hydroponic growing stand. So she was able to do her first harvest, and they did a lettuce party last week, which the kids went absolutely crazy over. They signed up to bring in different toppings. And some of the students even brought in homemade dressings, and somebody brought in tofu because they wanted everybody to have the opportunity to experience it. But that really has taken off and created a big excitement amongst our staff. So we have a meeting coming up, Aaron and myself, with Amanda Wooden, who's also on PSA as the environmental coordinator. We're meeting with her because she has some ideas and some thoughts on how involving her and some of her students from Bucknell. So we're excited just to see where this could lead and where this could go. The staff are just running with some ideas and we're brainstorming. Just seeing the excitement the kids got from it and all they were able to learn from it has just created a really nice buzz and excitement. And we're trying to really move forward and have this expand and grow just to benefit our kids in so many different ways. This week was Red Ribbon Week, so each day had a different theme. And even just the energy that brought to the building, I think kids being able to do some of those things just creates a nice positive energy. There's an excitement, awkward interaction when I walk into Dr. Polenshock's office with Minnie Mouse ears and a backwards clothes on, but I'd explain it quickly before. But just an awesome thing. And even kids bringing in cupcakes and being able to take them around. They were so excited to just even go around to teachers and give the extra cupcakes. And we've gotten different families have reached out to us just doing some of those things because they feel the energy that's brought to their children and the excitement and just trying to get back doing some of those things, still keeping in mind social distancing, getting outside when the weather's nice, eating their snacks outside or spacing out within the classroom. Some were even going to the hallways and spreading out. But just an awesome week of energy and excitement. I've started to put some pictures on Facebook and we'll put more tomorrow. I just wanted to spread them out a little bit. So just a really good, exciting week. And then finishes off with conferences throughout the week and tomorrow, which is a great opportunity, just having the interaction with the families. And then we follow up with the staff and just get a feel for what were some of the things that came out of that, what were positives, what are things that we can look at growing and maybe adjusting some of our things. What do we need to communicate better in some areas? So we'll have some follow-up meetings in the coming weeks, just on the feedback that we received from the conferences and using that as an opportunity to keep growing. And then the last thing, well, two more things. The high school started to send some students over for senior service. So that's another thing that it's nice to be able to get back to doing that. Also talked with the guidance staff as they look for, they have the Big Buddies program where primarily they go to Kelly Elementary, but they have some students that were connected with some of the kids that are now at Lintown. So they want to follow up and be able to work with them again. And as we've talked to some of the students about that, just their excitement with that and having, we have Liam Cummings is coming over to help Mr. Zeke in music. Brennan Baker is going to be starting up with Mr. Lagerman at gym. We have somebody, Grace Kinney is coming over to help with the ESL program. So just getting them there and the role models they are for our students and being able to interact with them is an awesome thing. Then the last thing I have, Mr. Jones reached out to Garrett Holdren, who's a graduate of Lewisburg. He also plays professionally as a cellist. We had a student that was having some trouble with his grip and felt it was causing some shoulder problems. And Mr. Jones did not want to lose him from orchestra. So he reached out to him he came in the other day and spent some time with the orchestra, just working with them, looking at techniques and offering tips on kids to see how he could help. So I know Mr. Jones was super pumped just to have that opportunity, and just a great way to involve graduates of Lewisburg and keeping them back in the community and helping out our kids. So it's just an awesome thing for them. With that, we'll pass it on to Chris.
Congratulations to high school, middle school, and Lintown athletics. I would be remiss if I did not say that if it was not for the Kelly Physical Education and Recess Program, none of this would be possible. Good evening, everybody. Just a couple things to update you on. We've been working to share information with our families about our new Bridges Math program. We posted information on our website, recorded an overview of the program, and shared with families resources for helping with students with math at home, among other efforts. To help with progress reporting and conferences, we also shared our math report cards with families so they would know how progress would be reported. And so we would have a good jumping off point at conferences. Mr. Kishel also offered 2 Zoom question and answer sessions on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week for families. And while participation was small, we were able to answer some important questions about the sequence of instruction, clarified how we selected the program, and shared examples of how students use Bridges materials to learn in more authentic ways. So it was worth the time to be able to do that. And as our first marking period concluded, we also conducted our next round of assessments to track student progress in reading and math. We're going to use this data to reorganize our MTSS groups so that we can meet student needs based upon the progress that they've made since our benchmarking at the beginning of the year. Thanks to all of our reading specialists and our teachers and staff for helping us to collect this data and continue to provide the opportunity to support our students. Finally, thanks to Mrs. Diggins and Mrs. Molyneux for their work in deepening our staff's understanding of social and emotional learning by sharing tools and skills to our teachers. We hold a monthly social and emotional learning meeting on our calendar during our professional time. And it's completely voluntary. And typically we have more than 20 of our staff that just come to it. And they've started a book club. They're sharing strategies to make classrooms more responsive to student emotional needs. And they're working with the PSA to continue to provide classroom resources that complement our second step program. And we're also working on developing a staff library that we'll have available with a lot of these resources that teachers can check out and use those. Thank you.
If I may, what is the name of the turtle?
You know, I don't know yet.
Okay.
He's been shy and coming out of his shell. Thank you. But do not know yet. I was going to bring him here tonight, but the other administrators didn't want him to steal the show. So maybe another time I could bring the turtle by. So
Thank you.
I don't have a name just yet.
Thank you. So with that, we'll move on to new business, and starting then off, we have some revised job descriptions for the athletic department.
Okay, you have in front of you print copies, or you did receive rather copies of just some areas that needed to be updated and brought forward for review and approval. So.
All right.
Second.
Lisa, was that your motion? And Aaron seconded. We're not spending any money here. I believe we can do this as a group. So all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? There you go, Paul. And next are some job descriptions for building and grounds.
Move to approve.
Same motion.
Second.
Same. The reverse.
No,
Aaron.
it's me. It was Virginia.
Oh, I'm sorry. You sounded alike. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes. Policies for first reading. Would anyone from the policy committee or Dr. Polachuk like to comment?
You have here another impressive array of policies for first reading. Many clustered around issues of leaves, as you see, and also updating the victims of violent crimes and dangerous schools policies. And I would move that we accept these for first reading.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
None. All right, any opposed? Excellent. Policy waiver for student 2021-26-5.
So the board has information about this situation in executive content, and we ask that you grant this waiver.
So moved.
Second.
Do we have to vote on that one?
Mhm.
Voice vote, Paula, if you would.
Dr. Unsicker-Fisero,
Yes.
Dr. Zimmerman,
Yes.
Mrs. Rouse,
Yes.
Mrs. Clark,
Yes.
Mr. Heath,
Yes.
Dr. Jablonski,
Yes.
Mr. Rowe,
yes,
Ms. Stanton,
Yes.
motion carried.
Very well. Next up is bidding for baseball field stormwater management remediation. Dr. Fairchild?
Yes, so ELA, as you know, we recently worked with them to develop the specifications and plans for what would be needed to stop the water from running across our baseball field and causing damage. Unfortunately, the estimated plans, which are hopefully estimated a little high, unfortunately, they came in above the bidding threshold as required by law. So we're asking you this evening to authorize us to proceed with bidding and to work with ELA for construction and bidding management services this evening.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second.
I just have a,
Discussion?
yeah, so this is not to do the work, right? This is to do the work.
This is the
This
bid,
is just to
just to bid.
Yeah, this is just to
This is
figure out,
just to go out.
this is just to
bid.
figure out the work.
Yes, actually, we figured out the work. Now we're going to go out to bid. And we're hopeful that by going out to bid here in the December, January timeframe, we'll get some good bids from, construction companies that are looking for work in the spring. And hopefully they'll come in less than the estimates
Mhm.
that they put together. And then we can do this in the spring and get it out of the way.
But either way, it would have to be bid.
Yes,
because it's
Right.
over the threshold.
This does say definitive fix.
yes. Yes. Yep. Yes, the water will be channeled away from the field.
I mean, this isn't the first time we've had to deal with a
No.
field with water that wasn't built the way it should be built.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's one of those where you build it as best you can, you plan as best you can, but water's gonna do what water's gonna do. And
Yeah.
again, as Dr.
That was
Pollinchak
very
has-
technical, John.
Thank you. As Dr. Pollinchak has pointed out, yes, we have a site plan for the entire
Mhm.
campus, but when you only develop one small piece
At
at
a
a time, outside that 400 square yard area, there could be other things that aren't, addressed because they weren't part of the scope, and that's where water comes from.
I am really glad that the new engineer of record that we have will be knowledgeable about the fact that water runs downhill.
Yes, they are all over that.
How many years of college does it take to learn that?
That's year one. Year two, you can't push a rope.
And we're not gonna re-affect the soccer field by fixing the baseball.
No, these are completely separate.
I know, but.
Yeah.
I don't want to
Again,
redirect
right,
the water.
exactly.
I understand the concern.
Soccer
There's a
field.
big valley between the two. So yeah,
Okay.
no, we're totally good there.
Just checking, because.
Well, and it was underwater last week. Like there was standing water on the field last week,
Where,
on the soccer field.
yeah,
Yeah, completely
I-
separate.
I don't think that's completely fixed. either, but-
But I mean, as people look at how to fix the baseball field, are they looking at the bigger, like the
Mhm.
baseball field in its context and,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
Yep,
So what
absolutely.
we've asked the engineer of record to do, particularly with any upcoming projects that we might embark upon, is to do a feasibility study on just that area to see what else needs to be done, not just in the area we develop, but the surrounding area and what impact that might have, because if we're preparing the land, we would want to address that there along with any construction of any other structures or fields that may be there. So it's that third set of eyes, because when we ask any contractor to just take a look at doing this, they'll only give you the scope of what you ask for. They won't necessarily expand that. They may see it and know it, but that wasn't what they were asked to do, so they only do what they're asked to do.
Is there any concern about the multipurpose building having issues with, because that's out in that area? Is that gonna be-
That's, again, that's also further away. That primarily right now where the water is coming down is where the handicap parking lot is, right next to the baseball field from that direction from the west. It's coming down and going across the field in two different directions. So the fix that we have is actually basically connecting the flat parts where the water's coming across, connecting it to two swales that are already there. They're just further out and they channel the water around the baseball field. So it's a minor fix in a smaller area that is well away from both the turf field and the concession building. Yep.
Any other questions? Paula, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Dr. Zimmerman,
Yes.
Mrs. Brown,
Yes.
Mrs. Clark,
Yes.
Mr. Heath,
Yes.
Dr. Jablonski,
Yes.
Mr. Rowe,
Yes.
Ms. Stanton,
Yes.
Dr. Unsicker Fisera.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Next up would be a classroom management system for Chromebooks.
Yes, good evening, board. Talking tonight about securely.
Can you go to the podium, please? Okay, we can get online. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, so tonight I'm going to tell you for the Chromebooks, Securely Classroom software. It's a classroom management software. What it does is basically allows the teachers to be able to lock down the Chromebooks so that students aren't going wherever they want to, locks them in. They can see what's going on the screen. So like, for instance, they can see, is the student on task? Or is there any self-harm issues? If they're doing, looking at places they, might not or shouldn't be. And stuff like that. There's a screen lock. So when they are like maybe doing some hands-on time off the computer, they can lock the screen down. They can close tabs and keep them from opening them. So for instance, you have the textbook page open, and then maybe they want to do a little ABC off time. So they can close that. They can also go and restrict sites. So if they only have like 2 or 3 sites that they want for that class, they can just put them in there so that the students cannot go anywhere else. Once again, they try to keep them on task. There is a raise hand feature. So during quiet time, instead of making noise or, maybe there's multiple stations going on, student can kind of flag the teacher down. They can make announcements through it. So Jimmy, you need to, I'm going to give you 3 extra problems because you need a little bit of help, that way not all the other students here, but yet you can provide individual instruction. There's a 2-way chat, so which can be turned on or off and is archived, but a student can text the teacher back for help. And they can, help that way if need be. You can view the browsing history, which is really good. So you can once again see, was the student on task? Is he doing the classwork that he's supposed to? Stuff like that. There's roster integrations, which is great because it goes in with Clever. So teacher can basically go, okay, here's the start of my class. Boom, and then for the next 60 minutes or however long the period is, they can have full control over what the student can do, not do, stuff like that. And then when the time is up, it releases it and can go on the next way or for the next period. It'll save screens, so they can take a screenshot and maybe for documentation purposes. Once again, students off task, they can take screenshots, send them off and show proof to the parent that, yeah, your student's goofing off a little bit. It can also actually start up on schedule too. So the teacher doesn't even have to really start the class. When the time comes, it's this time for the class. Those kids that are in that class, it's ready to go. So with all those features, it does come with a cost, of course. We're looking at, for the Chromebook pilot, of 150 Chromebooks for students. We're looking at $900 per year. And then there's, I'm gonna say, there are discounts for paying in advance or bulk rates and stuff like that. And the more license you get, the cheaper each student license gets.
I would add to this that it's always been an ongoing concern on the part of teachers that when the students have, whether it be the Chromebooks or they have the Macs with them, that they can wander the internet. We certainly have filters that keep them from getting to sites that are extremely inappropriate, but we may not want them on a site that they can access, but at that particular time, because it's taking them off task. Dino is a product that we've had in the district for a number of years on all of the Macs, and the issue with that is it's not completely compatible with the Mac because there's still features that the student has the autonomy to turn off. With Chromebooks, they're completely managed administratively. Everything can be pushed out to the Chromebook, and it can be controlled. It's set up for a school setting, unlike Macs that are really designed for more individual use. So Dino's worked and sometimes not worked. We've had a range of concerns from if teachers make an assessment on Canvas, they want to make sure that the kids aren't someplace looking up those answers on another web browser. And they can be very crafty about hiding that with teachers moving around for proximity. So in touching base with the teachers who are piloting, they've observed that the kids, as they become more comfortable, they're starting to wander and get off task. And they'd like that ability to have a little bit more control. Of course, all of this would be explained to students that teachers can now control what you're doing. So just don't put yourself in a position that the teacher needs to do that. And the teacher certainly would understand, that any dialogue they may have with the student that's archived and stuff, that's there, reinforcing to make sure that those are all professional and appropriate. So that's something that they feel would be really good. It's a good addition to our pilot to see how this works, because while we're only looking right now at whether or not Chromebooks are appropriate for our 4th and 5th graders in place of the iPads, should we take a look at whether Chromebooks are a solution and for whom, including staff and the different courses that are taught across the district, it would be good to know how this feature operates, and the teachers in the pilot can give us some feedback to that effect as well.
Do the teachers need to be trained? Will the teachers have opportunity to be trained on
They
how to
do.
use it?
Sorry, yeah, they do have an opportunity to be trained. They will do a training, basically showing them how to use the product. There's a free and a paid offering, of course. The paid offering is obviously going to be more in depth, but yeah, they'll be trained on it.
If this, go ahead. Well, if this, at Lidtown, the students do shift classes a little bit. So if they're in a different class for social studies and they have brought their Chromebooks with them, does this transfer into that other classroom with that other teacher?
Yes.
Okay.
So one of the neat things with this one is that I have seen elsewhere that hasn't worked so well is when they get to the new class, if for some reason the other teacher still has control of it, when they say, okay, let's start my class, they now get control. So they're not dealing with some lockdowns and stuff from the previous class.
Thank you. So the students in Lintown take the computers home with them? Yes. Is there any concern for like privacy issues? You had mentioned a two-way part of this where there can be like a two-way conversation that takes place. Is there any privacy concerns?
Well, first off, we can restrict it so that it can only be used in school. So you don't have to worry about necessarily them being able to
feature.
contact home.
That feature you're saying.
Correct, yes. We can also turn that chat feature completely off. And then maybe have the student email instead, if that's something that you'd be more comfortable with.
Any motion yet?
No.
No, but you're welcome to.
Yep, I'm so move to approve.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? All right. Paula, if you would take a roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Kraus?
Yes.
Mrs. Clark? Yes. Mr. Heath?
Yes.
Dr. Jablonski?
Yes.
Mr. Rowe?
Yes.
Ms. Stanton?
Yes.
Dr. Unseco Fisera?
Yes.
Dr. Zimmerman?
Yes.
Motion carried.
I believe that brings us to the assistant superintendent's report.
Yes, it does. I'll speak just to what Jeremy shared and Dr. Pollentoff. Mr. Wetzel and I met with these 5 teachers who have been piloting the Chromebook. And they are so positive about the features of the Chromebook and the kind of work that the students can do and the increased sophistication of the device over an iPad, everything from the keyboard to just being able to work well in content subject areas, which is where your intermediate school students are by 4th and 5th grade. And it's just been a very good experience. It was a pilot on our part to start. They asked for just 2 things, and one of the 2 was this kind of a management system. So we appreciate being able to come to you. There are several products on the market. This one is rated with very positive features. We know of some local districts who are using Chromebooks who have used this particular product. So we want to pilot this one to see if it's the answer for us. So thank you very much for your support. And again, these teachers are finding the Chromebook to be a great device for the students. My report that you have in front of you this evening also speaks to a pilot that is probably our largest pilot, the Kelly Elementary one that Chris already mentioned, the multiple tiers of support for reading and mathematics instruction at Kelly K3, emphasis on reading this first year. And I did for you here in simple paragraphing that continues forward from the first to the second page, some of the information that Chris did already reference this evening. The staff at Kelly have been able to identify kids most in need of support using some research-based intervention materials and some good training that a number of our staff have received over the last year in order to be able to provide the kind of support, knowing that reading, of course, is the foundational content area and skill set that we want to instill in all of our students. This is a very serious effort. It encompasses a lot of people at Kelly. Everybody's got a role to play. And buried there in my 2 paragraphs is the idea that more than 80 students have actually been able to receive these interventions over the 5 weeks since they began. They're going to take stock here over this next week with the conferencing and so forth and the end of the first quarter. And then they regroup and begin again with students. Some students will continue their interventions. Some will be able to exit out of their interventions, and more will be planned for students whose needs become more evident the more often we take a look at where they're moving along the progress continuum in their literacy instruction. A very good start. And again, a number of students being able to receive the support that they need. The top of my report was meant to give you an update on where we were and where we are. Over the last several meetings, our principals have talked about what a wonderful return to the routines of school, the pieces we enjoy, the regularity of schedules and courses and all things moving forward. And so I just simply provide to you here in a very basic format, the far two columns, June of 2021 and where we were when we closed school last year. And the purpose for including that, and then the contrast, taking these pieces from October's student demographic counts, if you will, to show you that obviously, as all our principals have said, our families have brought their children back to school. You can see the increase in student population across all our buildings, the representative decline in the use of the eSchool program. But I also want to acknowledge Mrs. Tara Miller, who took on the challenge this year to provide elementary K-5 eSchool learning for those families and students who chose to continue with a virtual solution for education. Her 17 students, if you will, K-5, represent a reduction in numbers, but again, a quality program designed. It's our reading curriculum, it's our math curriculum that these children are able to receive, and that's a real positive. Noticing too as well that both middle school and high school numbers of eSchool students reflect a decrease in numbers, but again, for some individuals and under certain circumstances, still a very viable solution for education. Edgenuity is our provider, and we had a number of our teachers preview and review their courses to assure that there's a greater alignment to the content in our in-school courses. And it's also got interfacing and functionality, if you will, that has allowed their eSchool courses to run rather smoothly this year without challenge. The parentheses in the high school, there are 39 students full-time in eSchool, but additional students take a single course in eSchool, and that's the flexibility come high school that we need to be able to offer. Sometimes that is what allows a particular course to be available to a student. Sometimes singletons have schedule conflicts, and we need to make pieces work for our families. And so you see the numbers again. Homeschool education has returned to more of our traditional population of homeschool students and their families. The numbers running here, as you see, 77 this year is very much in line with what is typically our homeschool audience. And so as you can see, the decrease from a year ago to now. And certainly important to us from a budgetary standpoint, as well as quality of education, to see that cyber education option reduced in numbers as well. The last piece I shared with you on the back side of my report, curriculum work always continues, and there's always new to work with. We shared in the Education Committee that Pennsylvania is on the cusp of approving new science standards. National science standards have been written for a period of time, simply called the Next Generation Science Standards. Pennsylvania has done some modifying and customizing of those standards. And so I share with you that as the State Board of Regulation, as well as the Pennsylvania Department of Education, put their approval to it, that will mean that we have work to do K-12 to take a look at new standards and align our curriculum and curriculum resources with new science standards. So that's a scope of work that will begin with our staff beginning to read and become familiar with the new standards. And then, as we always count on our staff, our teachers and their expertise, they'll begin to dialogue and work toward what do we need to be looking forward to in our science courses K-12. Thank you, Mr. Heath.
Thank you. Any board liaison and committee reports?
Sunday met last week, and you have the highlights in front of you. I just want to draw your attention. We had two students from Lewisburg recognized as the Sunrise Ribbon Student of the Month. Caleb Flieger in Diesel was September, and Dora Peeling was in Collision Repair in October.
Good.
You have the IU report in front of you as well. They did a spotlight on their migrant education program, which was really fascinating. It was really interesting to hear from the parents about the difference that it made in their kids' lives. So It's a really amazing program.
I think a couple of us didn't get it, Marianne.
Yeah, you get it.
Share after maybe.
It's on the.
Oh, it's on your,
It's on the agenda.
it's on your
It's an
agenda.
attachment on the
Oh.
agenda.
Okay,
That one. Okay.
very good. Moving on to the consent agenda. Is there any item in the consent agenda that anyone would like held out separately for a vote? If not, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, Paula.
Mrs. Clark? Yes. Mr. Feast?
Yes.
Mr. Rowe?
Yes, with the exception of the personnel report due to a family conflict.
Dr. Jablonski?
Yes.
Ms. Stanton?
Yes.
Dr. Unsecker Fisera?
Yes.
Dr. Zimmerman? Yes. Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Very good. Director's comments. Marianne, you want to go first or last?
I'll just go.
All right.
It's kind of amazing to hear that we're already at the point again where seniors are applying to college again. So I still have a little PTSD about that from last year, and it feels like it just happened. And I can just say, I can echo what Ms. Reber said about the incredible assistance that our teachers and our guidance counselors and our then assistant principals give to students, and they go above and beyond. And I just want to thank all of you for that, because our kids are really fortunate. It's a challenging process all around, and that's coming from someone who works at a college. So for those who don't have that kind of access, it's just a labyrinth. So really grateful that Lewisburg has such incredible support. And you're all doing such amazing things, and I can go through and say all of those, but I'm just, I'll stop at that and say, no, I won't. And I'll also say how great it is that our athletics programs are all just, they're doing so well. I can't wait to go watch the soccer teams on Saturday. So hope that people are able to get out and support our students wherever they are. Bless you.
I will echo Marianne's sentiments about the support that the kids are getting at the high school as they, go through the maze of applying for college. And in addition to the tremendous job that the counselors do, I just want to give a shout out to the teachers. I know that, they're writing the letters, but they're also helping kids with their essays and just generally being resources. And, for many of at least in the small case study that happens to happen in my house, it's not even teachers that the students currently have who are helping them. So, it's really above and beyond. And they should understand how grateful the kids and their families are. Super excited about the spectacular. It is an amazing event. I always look forward to it. Mr. Jones is often costumed in an entertaining way, so I'm looking forward to seeing what happens there. And I also just want to acknowledge how exciting it was to hear the two different stories of alumni who, have come back and offered their expertise and their experiences. Obviously we have so many alumni probably all over the world. And one of the fortunate byproducts of the pandemic is that we're also comfortable with Zoom now, that it's just a wonderful opportunity to bring all kinds of people, into contact with kids who are doing all sorts of different things. So I'm excited to hear that's happening.
Also very excited about the spectacular. It's one of my favorite things. I was disappointed last year not to see it, but very excited about that. Congratulations to all of our fall sports teams, whatever building they may be coming from. Congratulations to all of them. And just want to give a shout out to the Green Dragon Foundation and whoever else is giving us donations. It's always somebody at some point, every time we meet. We really have significant support from our community, and it's so important for us to be able to have all that we have because of that community support. So thank you to everyone who does that.
Tara?
I want to ditto all the comments. It's exciting to hear the athletics as well as the education things going on in each respective building. And I'll just share, my youngest is a part of the Chromebook pilot, and I think it's awesome. My other kids have all had the Macs, and they're great. But to have those books, those Chromebooks in the hands of fourth graders
McKinley, was so excited the other night. She sat down and wrote a whole story and she said it's so fun to get to type finally. And I hadn't thought about that, but on an iPad, they don't type, they peck. And so I think that's just another thing that's going to help them that maybe, I don't know, if maybe someone thought about it, but I hadn't thought about it. So a good thing coming out of it as well, that maybe they'll be able to type better versus whatever this is. So I just want to share some of those things, and she's very excited, and she treats it like it's the most important thing, which is awesome because we were out of town and my father thought it was funny and put some water on her while she was upside down working on her whatever, and she goes, "Grandpa, that's my Chromebook. You're gonna ruin it." And I was like, I think a drop of water won't hurt it, but I'm glad you're aware. So I think they take it very seriously, which is great. So I just appreciate piloting that program.
Kathy, anything additional?
That's it. Thank you.
Paula, John,
Nothing there.
Mary?
Yes, I have a report on the conference, PSBA conference that Jordan and I went to by Zoom. I had trouble getting audio at first. And a lot of board members did too, but finally we got our audio. But basically, if any of you, and I know you have attended, we went over the bylaws and the changes and we voted on them. A lot of time was spent on equity and education. And believe it or not, some districts in the state aren't even practicing that. And we were kind of amazed at that. But some board members felt that a lot of the wording in the bylaws was repetitious. And we're already doing that. So why have it in? So it was an interesting discussion. It lasted about 2 hours. We were done by 12. And then we had the treasurer's report. So basically that was the nuts and bolts of it. And I'd also like to put a plug in for the alumni spaghetti supper Tuesday night. It starts at 5. I believe it's done at 7. Do you know, George? And I know I
they're
asked.
coming in right after dismissal to start setting up, so.
Okay, I know I asked Jordan at the last board meeting, he didn't think we are gonna have it, and then I got a notice from Bob Rouse, and I told him to contact Paula, or Jen, excuse me, regarding masking. He didn't want to mask, and I said, well, it's what it is, so. I think it was $7 for adults and $5 for children. So please attend that, because it's good meal.
Are they
And
doing
June-
takeout too, Mary?
Yes, they are having takeout.
So
I know.
people can
Aunt
go
June-
vote and pick up their spaghetti.
Yep, yep.
Just saying.
Yep. And Aunt Junta makes the spaghetti sauce, so it's homemade spaghetti sauce. He has champion shoe.
Oh,
Well, he
that's
did.
so
His
great.
daughter has it now.
Aaron?
I just want to say I was really happy to hear about all the arts and athletics going on. That's fantastic. It's great to hear about what's going on at Kelly, but mostly I'm thankful that I come to the meetings to find out what's happening in my children's schools because they're at the ages now where it's not that cool to tell me. So I'm going to go home and ask about Fall Fest, and I'm going to go home and ask how all the wacky stuff that you all did. I know I had to do something crazy to her hair this morning. That's really all the information I had.
Jen?
Well, congratulations to all our athletes, and hopefully they have continued success for as long as the season is possible. It's really also good to hear about many of the regular activities, the concerts, the spirit activities that we normally do are all coming back. It's a lot like normal school in some respects, just we have the masks and we just need that for a little bit longer. Just for the community's awareness, I did send an email out to the community about vaccinations that would be available. So we wanted to make sure that, all of that and the district's committed to, as information becomes more available, putting that out on our website. The IU is right now coordinating with Geisinger and Evangelical on how that would go. So there'll be a flyer, and once that's available, we'll have that out so that parents at least have our website that they can get to get that information. As Ms. Moser shared, there's a lot of curriculum work that is on the horizon. The new science standards are are pretty well thought through as they are in that final approval process. You really see STEM and environmental coming together, which is fortuitous for us because we are already working through our implementation of our K-5 math series and now taking a look at 6 to 12 and now only to bring science in K-12. And it just makes so much sense to be able to have that conversation and do that work at the same time.
Okay. Thank everybody for their input tonight. The only thing I have to add is to tell Tara that, you know, nothing against typing, but you can make a very successful career out of hunting. And for Aaron, the lack of information does not improve anytime soon. So adjust your expectations.
Oh, no, John.
Oh, I'm sorry, John, I almost forgot. Out in
That's
Cyber-
okay. I'm used to that. No, I appreciate the cards that the students made to the veterans. That was a wonderful touch. Thank you for sharing that.
All right, thank you, Marianne, for catching that. Any citizens' comments to the board on a non-agenda item?
We do not have any comments online. I don't know if we have anybody.
Hi, everybody. Matt Parent from the Standard Journal, and I am a district president, 216 North Fifth Street, Lewisburg. And I just wanted to draw everybody's attention to the piece I did that's in today's print edition of the Standard Journal about the middle school play, and it's called the Humor Games, and it's a comic parody of the Hunger Games. And I attended the rehearsal yesterday, and it's quite the middle school experience. And I thought John was heading for a really bad pun, you know, with the baseball field remediation. You could have called it the field of streams.
I think that was the award tonight. All right, no other non-agenda items, John?
Nope.
And I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So second.
Very good. All in